Security! Get this woman out of here!
The rich bride drenches a poor girl at her wedding, unaware she once donated blood that saved the groom's life. Security, get her out. Security, get her out. The champagne bucket hit me before I could say a word. Ice water drenching my faded t-shirt while 200 guests laughed and recorded. But as I stood there in my damp faded t-shirt and worn jeans, my braids dripping with humidity, watching the man whose life I'd saved about to marry a woman who was now dousing me with ice water, I knew this $1,000,000 wedding was about to become memorable for all the wrong reasons. Security! Danielle's voice sliced through the classical music like broken glass. Get her out before she contaminates my perfect day. Her ivory gown shimmered as she tossed the champagne bucket aside, water still dripping from my face. The guests gasped and laughed, their phones already recording. I could feel their eyes scanning me, cataloging every stain on my shirt, every scuff on my sneakers. Before I go on, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me in the comments which country you're listening from. I want to know where you are. My name is Alicia Grant, and I need you to understand something. 6 months ago, I was pulling a double shift at Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami, my third one that week. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The smell of antiseptic hung in the air, and my feet ached in shoes I'd resoled twice because I couldn't afford new ones. It was 2:47 a.m. when my pager went off. Trauma incoming. ETA 3 minutes. Multiple vehicle collision. I grabbed my gloves and ran. Being a trauma nurse isn't glamorous. There are no designer gowns or champagne toasts. There's blood and chaos and making life or death decisions in seconds while someone's mother is screaming in the hallway, but it's honest work. And after growing up in Kingston, Jamaica, watching my own mother clean hotel rooms 16 hours a day just to keep food on our table, I learned early that honest work is the only kind worth doing. The ambulance doors burst open, paramedics rushed in a man on a stretcher, mid-30s, unconscious, covered in blood. Car had T-boned him on I-95. The impact had crushed his door, shattered his ribs, and torn an artery. He was losing blood fast. Too fast. We need O-neg stat, Dr. Chen barked, already cutting away the man's shirt. I ran to the blood bank. My hands were steady, they always were in moments like this, but my heart was pounding. When you've seen enough people die, you develop this sixth sense about who's going to make it. This man was on the edge. I burst through the blood bank doors. We need AB negative now! The tech Monica looked up from her computer screen, her face falling. We're out! My stomach dropped. What? Shortage. Citywide. We won't get a shipment until tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning might as well have been next year. I ran back to the trauma bay. Dr. Chen was working frantically, but I could see it in his eyes we were losing him. The monitors were screaming. The man's blood pressure was dropping. His lips were turning blue. And that's when I heard my own voice say, I'm AB negative. Dr. Chen looked up. What? I'm AB negative. Take mine. There was a pause, half a second that felt like an hour. Then Dr. Chen nodded. Prep her, now. They sat me in a chair right there in the corner of the trauma bay. Monica hooked me up to the machine while I watched them work on him. Watched my blood flow through the tube, dark red and warm. The only thing standing between this stranger and death. My arm ached. My head got light. But I didn't look away. They stabilized him around 4 a.m. By the time my shift ended at 6, he was in the ICU, sedated but breathing. I went home, slept for 3 hours, then got up to wire money to my younger sister Kendra back in Kingston. She was in nursing school, following in my footsteps. My brother Jamal was in his last year of high school, trying to get a scholarship to study engineering. Every dollar I earned went to them. The rent on my cramped studio apartment in Little Haiti came second. Food came third. And that's how it had been for 5 years, since I'd moved to Miami. I didn't mind. They were my family, and family meant everything. 3 weeks later, a card arrived at the hospital. plain white envelope, no return address. Inside was a simple thank you card with elegant handwriting. You saved my life when you didn't have to. I will never forget what you did. Forever grateful. No name, no signature. I smiled, tucked the card in my locker, and went back to work. That's how these things go sometimes. You save someone, they thank you, and you move on. I never expected to see him again. I never expected to learn his name. But 6 months later, 3 days before that wedding, everything changed. I was sitting on my couch after another night shift, still in my scrubs, eating leftover rice and beans, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't open it. But something made me click. You saved his life. He's marrying someone who wouldn't have lifted a finger. Come to the Reynolds Estate Garden, Saturday, 3 p.m. My chest tightened. I read it again, then again. You saved his life. There had been others. I donated blood before. But something about the timing, the tone, the specificity, it felt like it was about him. The man from that night. I typed back, "Who is this?" No response. I stared at the message for 20 minutes. Then I deleted it. But an hour later, I opened my trash folder and read it again. He's marrying someone who wouldn't have lifted a finger. What did that mean? And why did someone want me to know? I told myself it was none of my business. I told myself whoever sent it was probably just stirring up drama. I told myself I had a shift the next morning and 2 siblings depending on me and no time for mystery texts from strangers. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that card. Forever grateful. I kept thinking about his face pale and lifeless on that stretcher and how close he'd come to never waking up. And I kept thinking, what if he doesn't know who she really is? By Friday night, I'd made my decision. I borrowed a decent pair of jeans from my coworker. I braided my hair. I looked up the Reynolds estate on Google Maps and saw photos of a place so grand it looked like something out of a magazine. Not my world. Not even close. But I had to know. Saturday at 2:30 p.m., I caught the bus. By 3:15, I was standing at the edge of that garden in the beating Miami sun, watching a wedding I had no invitation to, searching the crowd for a face I'd only seen once, barely alive. 6 months ago, I said, my voice shaking but clear. I gave blood. AB negative. It was you. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. An audible gasp rippled through the crowd. The string quartet stopped playing mid-note. Even the bridesmaids, who'd been laughing seconds ago, went still. Marcus's face went pale. What did you just say? Jackson Memorial Hospital, March 17th, 2:47 inches the morning. My voice grew steadier with each word. You came in from a car accident on I-95, multiple trauma. Massive blood loss. The hospital didn't have your blood type in stock. I could see recognition dawning in his eyes. His hand moved unconsciously to his left side, to the scar I couldn't see but somehow knew was there. So, I gave you mine? I continued. Right there in the trauma bay, while Dr. Chen worked on you. They took a pint and a half. It was enough to stabilize you until the shipment came in the next morning. The silence was deafening. Danielle's face had gone from flushed with anger to white with shock. Then the shock twisted into rage. That's a lie, she snapped, stepping between Marcus and me. You're some crazy stalker who read about his accident online and let her speak. Marcus's voice wasn't loud, but it cut through Danielle's words like a blade. He moved around his bride, his eyes never leaving mine. Let her speak, he repeated, softer this time. Danielle's mouth opened and closed, like a fish gasping for air. Her bridesmaids stood frozen behind her. Tiffany and Jasmine exchanged uncomfortable glances. Erica's expression was unreadable. And Keisha was watching me with something that looked like recognition. Marcus stepped closer. How did you know to come here? I pulled my phone from my pocket with trembling hands, pulled up the deleted messages folder, and showed him the text. You saved his life. He's marrying someone who wouldn't have lifted a finger. Come to the Reynolds Estate Garden, Saturday 3 p.m. Marcus read it, his jaw tightening. Who sent this? I don't know. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the man I'd watched fight for his life 6 months ago. Saw him breathing, standing alive. I almost didn't come. I deleted the message 3 times. Because what business was it of mine who you married? I didn't save your life for recognition or reward or... Then why did you come? Danielle demanded, finding her voice again. Her hands were clenched into fists, her designer gown trembling with barely contained fury. I turned to her. For the first time, I really saw her. Not just the bride who'd humiliated me, but the woman who was terrified of losing control of her perfect day. Because I needed him to know, I said quietly. I received a card weeks after the accident. It said, forever grateful. No name, no signature. And I tucked it away and moved on, because that's what you do. But when I got that text, when I realized that the man whose life I saved was about to marry someone... Someone what? Danielle's voice was shrill now. Someone rich? Someone successful? Someone who actually belongs in his world? Someone who doesn't understand what it means to sacrifice, I finished. The words landed like a slap. Danielle's face contorted. You don't know anything about me. You show up here in your Goodwill clothes and your sob story, trying to play the hero. So what, you saved him? And now you want a reward? Want him to leave me at the altar? Want a check? What's your price? I don't want anything. Everyone wants something. Danielle was yelling now, her careful composure completely shattered. Nobody does something for nothing. So what is it? Money? Attention? You want to be the saint who saved the rich man's life so you can feel important for once in your pathetic in quote. That's enough. This time it was Keisha who spoke. She stepped forward from the line of bridesmaids, her emerald dress swishing as she moved. Without a word, she unwrapped the silk shawl from her shoulders and placed it around mine. You don't deserve this, Keisha said softly, meeting my eyes. Thank you for everything. Keisha, what are you? Danielle started. But Keisha just shook her head and stepped back, leaving the shawl warm around my soaked shoulders. Tiffany and Jasmine looked at each other uncomfortably. Jasmine took a small step back, her usual sass completely gone. Erica remained still, but I saw something shift in her expression, a reassessment. Marcus was still staring at me. His phone had fallen from his hand at some point, and he looked like a man who just had the ground ripped out from under him. "I never knew your name," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "The hospital wouldn't tell me. I sent a card, left my number with administration, asked them to forward it to you, but you never called." "I never got a number," I said. "Just the card. I've been looking for you for 6 months." His eyes were wet now. "6 months. I wanted to thank you, to tell you what you did for me." "You don't owe me anything," I said, and I meant it. I was doing my job. "Your job?" Marcus's voice cracked. "You gave me your blood. You gave me a second chance at life, and I didn't even know your name." "It's Alicia," I whispered. "Alicia Grant." He repeated it slowly, like he was memorizing every syllable. "Alicia." Danielle let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "This is insane! This is Marcus! She's clearly unstable! She crashed our wedding! She saved my life!" Marcus turned to his bride, and for the first time since I'd arrived, I saw him really look at her. Not with love or even respect, but with something colder, clearer. "She saved my life, Danielle, and you threw water on her." Danielle's face crumpled. "I didn't know. You didn't ask." Marcus's voice was quiet but devastating. "You saw someone you thought was beneath you, and you humiliated her without a second thought." The crowd murmured. Phones were definitely recording now. This would be everywhere by nightfall. Marcus turned back to me, and before Danielle could say another word, before anyone could move or speak or process what was happening, he did something that would change everything. He took my hand. His palm was warm, steady, and as his fingers wrapped around mine, I felt it the pulse of blood through his veins. Blood that was partially mine. Blood that connected us in a way that went deeper than words. "Come with me," he said gently. And without looking back at his bride, at the gasping guests, at the wedding falling apart around him, Marcus Reynolds led me away from the altar and towards something neither of us could have predicted. Behind us, I heard Danielle's voice crack. "Marcus, wait." But he didn't wait. Neither of us did. Marcus led me away from the altar, through a side gate in the garden, past hedges sculpted into perfect spirals, past marble fountains and rose bushes that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Neither of us spoke. His hand still held mine firm, grounding, and I was grateful because my legs felt like they might give out at any moment. We stopped at a small pavilion tucked away from the main garden. White columns, ivy climbing the lattice, a bench that looked out over a pond where swans glided across the water like they'd been hired for ambiance. Marcus finally let go of my hand and turned to face me, his expression somewhere between devastation and wonder. 6 months, he said. "I've been searching for you for 6 months." I wrapped Keisha's shawl tighter around my shoulders, suddenly cold despite the Miami heat. "I didn't know you were looking. I left my number with the hospital, with Dr. Chen, with administration." He ran his hand over his face. "I sent that card hoping you'd reach out, but you never did. They never gave me your number. Just the card." My voice was barely a whisper. "I thought that was the end of it." Marcus laughed a hollow, broken sound. "The end of it? Alicia, you saved my life. How could that ever be the end?" "Because that's how it works," I said, feeling tears prick my eyes. "People come into the ER, we save them if we can, and they go back to their lives. I don't get follow-up stories. I don't get happy endings. I just move on to the next patient." "But I'm not just another patient." Marcus stepped closer. "You gave me your blood. His voice cracked. "Do you have any idea what that means to me?" The tears came then, hot and fast. "I didn't expect this. Any of this. I just wanted to see you happy. That's why I came. Because whoever sent that text made me think, made me worry that maybe you weren't. Marcus's jaw tightened. Who do you think sent it? I don't know. I thought maybe someone who knew about the accident. Someone who wanted me to stop the wedding. I wiped my eyes. But I didn't come here to stop anything, Marcus. I came because I needed to know you were okay, that the life I helped save was a good one. And is it? His eyes searched mine. Does it look good to you? I thought about Danielle dumping water on my head, about the guests laughing, about the way Marcus had looked standing at that altar perfect and polished and utterly hollow. No, I whispered. It doesn't. Marcus closed his eyes, and I saw a tear slip down his cheek. I've been lying to myself for months, telling myself the wedding made sense, that Danielle made sense, that I could build a life with someone I respected but didn't. He stopped. But I couldn't stop thinking about you, the woman who gave without asking, who sacrificed without seeking credit. I didn't even know your name, but I knew you were real, in a way nothing else in my life was. I didn't know what to say. So I just stood there, water still dripping from my hair, this man's gratitude and confession washing over me like the tide. I'm sorry, I finally said. I'm sorry I ruined your wedding. You didn't ruin anything. Marcus looked at me, and the weight of his gaze made my chest ache. You exposed the truth. There's a difference. Back at the altar, chaos had erupted. Danielle stood frozen in her ivory gown, mascara running, her perfect facade cracking like porcelain. Guests whispered and pointed. Photographers packed up their equipment, sensing the wedding was over. And in the bridal suite behind the garden, the bridesmaids had gathered in a tight, tense circle. I can't believe he just walked away. Danielle paced the small room like a caged animal, in front of everyone, with her. Tiffany sat on the velvet couch, loyalty warring with discomfort on her face. Dee, maybe you should... Should what? Danielle whirled on her. Should apologize to some random girl who crashed my wedding? She didn't crash it, Keisha said quietly from the corner. She was invited. Everyone turned to stare at her. What are you talking about? Jasmine asked. Keisha met Danielle's eyes steadily. Someone sent her a text, told her to come, told her Marcus was marrying someone who wouldn't have lifted a finger to save him. Danielle's face went white, then red. Who would? She stopped, eyes narrowing. You. Keisha didn't flinch. Yes, it was me. Keisha, what the hell? Jasmine stood up, shocked. But Erica, ever observant, just nodded slowly, like pieces were clicking into place. Danielle's voice dropped to something dangerous. Why? Keisha took a breath. Because 3 months ago, Marcus and I had coffee. We were talking about life, about purpose, and he told me about the accident. About the nurse who saved his life by donating blood on the spot. He told me he'd been searching for her, that he couldn't stop thinking about her. So, you decided to track her down and ruin my wedding? Danielle's hands shook. I decided to find out the truth. Keisha corrected. I called Jackson Memorial. I talked to the trauma nurses. I asked around about AB-negative donors from that night, and I found her name, Alicia Grant. Tiffany gasped. Keisha, that's what? Keisha snapped, her usual soft demeanor cracking. What was I supposed to do? Watch Marcus marry you knowing he was still searching for someone else? Knowing you didn't even care that he was? I care, Danielle started. You care about image, Keisha said, her voice hard now. You care about the Brooks name and what Marcus can do for your reputation. But do you love him, Danielle? Have you ever actually loved him? The room went silent. Danielle opened her mouth, closed it. Tears streamed down her face, but no words came. Erica spoke softly. You told me 4 days ago that Marcus was good for the Brooks name. That's what you said. Not that you loved him. Not that you couldn't imagine life without him. Just that he was good for the name. Marriage isn't always about love, Danielle said, but her voice was hollow. It's about partnership, strategy, building something together. That's business, Jasmine said, her usual sass replaced with sadness. Not marriage. Danielle sank onto the couch, her designer gown pooling around her like a deflated parachute. I didn't dump water on her because I'm cruel. I did it because I saw someone who didn't belong and I panicked. I thought she was trying to ruin everything I built. Maybe everything you built deserved to be ruined, Keisha said gently. Danielle looked up, broken. He left me, at our wedding, in front of everyone, because you humiliated the woman who saved his life. Keisha knelt beside her. Dee, I know you. You're not heartless. But you've been so focused on appearances, on perfection, that you forgot to actually connect with the man you were marrying. I don't know how to connect, Danielle whispered. I only know how to perform. It was the most honest thing she'd said in months. Tiffany put a hand on her shoulder. Then maybe it's time to stop performing. Back at the pavilion, Marcus and I sat side by side on the bench, watching the swans. Keisha, I said suddenly. It was Keisha who sent the text. Marcus frowned. How do you know? The way she looked at me, the way she gave me her shawl without hesitation. I turned to him. She knew who I was. She's the only one who defended me. Marcus processed this. Keisha's always been different from Danielle's other friends, more real. She did you a favor, I said. She did us both a favor. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything settling over us like fog. What happens now? I asked. Marcus looked at me, and for the first time since I'd seen him at that altar, he smiled. Now I start living the life you gave back to me. The right way this time. By Sunday morning, Danielle Brooks was trending on Twitter. Not for her stunning Vera Wang gown, or her lavish garden wedding, or her perfect Instagram aesthetic. She was trending because someone had recorded the moment she dumped ice water on a woman in worn jeans and uploaded it with the caption, "Rich bride humiliates wedding crasher. Turns out the crasher saved the groom's life." The video had 2.3 million views by dawn. Danielle sat in her childhood bedroom, the same one she'd sat in 4 nights ago, staring at her wedding dress with cold feet she'd refused to acknowledge and Then let me put my pieces back together first. Marcus reached out, and this time, Alicia let him take her hand. And when I do, when I'm ready to show up as the man I want to be, not the man I was pretending
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.